Hello students, welcome to part 3, the detailed instructions for the third part of the Africa e-learning packet number 2. So this is the third part, which would finish out the first week. So as you see on the screen, we have part 3 up, and before we begin, just a quick reminder, if you've got questions, please email me those questions. I'll get back with you as soon as I possibly can. Usually within the same, always within the same day, usually within minutes of you sending the email message. Also remember, with every part, read all the instructions, the directions, the questions that are on the screen. Don't just try to jump right to your answers. Make sure that you read the instructions as well. So here we go. We're going to read the instructions for part 3. In part 3 it says, before reading the article found at this link, define the vocabulary terms on this slide. Look at the reading article for a box called Words to Know that has definitions for these words. So I'm going to click into that particular reading article, and as I click into it, you'll see that the reading article appears on the screen. The reading article is actually not that long of a reading article. It's a lot like a section out of the textbook. You see there's a first page, and the first page, most of it is a picture, and there is some text. There's a box that says words to know. That's the box that you're going to be looking for to define the vocab terms. And as I scroll down, there's a second page that has some more text, and of course it has some pictures and so forth. And there is a third page that has a map. Don't worry about the third page. We don't need the third page for this particular assignment or anything like that. So you don't need to worry about that third page. But all of the information that you're going to need for this entire part, for part 3, all the questions are going to be answered by the text that you see on this page and on this particular page. So those are the only 2 pages that you're really going to need. So you look through, read that particular text. For the vocab terms, you look at that box that says words to know, and you go out and you answer the questions that are on your particular presentation. So colonialism, commodity, dignitary, those are all things that you want to be able to answer. And as you step through part 3, the next question talks about describing 3 problems which occurred in Africa. They keep Africa's people among the poorest people on earth in the 50 years since European colonialism has ended. The next question, 5 resources are commodities which created a scramble for Africa why did the European nations want to make colonies out of Africa? Well, Africa was rich in resources, and there was a lot of money to be made in Africa. And that gets to that learning target where we're talking about the economy of Africa. So the resources, how did people make money out of Africa? And that question is looking at that particular sort of topic. And then what happened to Africa as a result of European colonization? And then describe 2 scars left behind in Africa after European colonization ended. What's 2 things that happened as a result of the European colonization? And then finally, the last bit is 3 reasons to be optimistic about the future of Africa. Why would people be thinking that there is hope for Africa? And there are some things that you can answer there. With that, you're finished with part 3. Now, part 3 does take a little bit longer than parts 1 and 2. Part 3, because you had to read that article and you had a number of different questions, I did decide to break up part 3 into being a 2-day type of part. So part 3 should take you Wednesday and Thursday. That'd be April 7th and 8th, actually 8th and 9th, April 8th and 9th. So that's Wednesday and Thursday. So by the end of that first week, by the end of April 9th, you should have part 3 done if you're following the timeline. Now, of course, if you are speeding ahead, or if you're kind of working on things at a different rate, just realize that this part may be a little bit longer than the first 2 parts. And then finally, if you have questions, please feel free to email me. I'll answer them within that day, probably within just a few minutes. So with that, you'll have part 3 done, ready to move on to part 4 next week. Thank you so much for watching. Stay very safe, healthy, well, and we'll see you when school reopens. Thanks again. Bye.